Hey everyone, welcome to the 463rd episode of Just Shoot It, a podcast about filmmaking, screenwriting, and directing. This episode is brought to you by patron Bill Mann, who has been hiring any director that comes on this podcast other than Matt and Oren. So if you want to get hired by Bill, come on our podcast.
That is the secret to this show
Success.
that we should tell people about is like, yeah, you book jobs by just being on the show.
Off of booking Just Shoot It. It is hard to book Just Shoot It, though.
That's true.
It's not easy. Anyhow, I'm Oren Kaplan.
And I'm Matt Unlow. Today we've got Kyle Hausmann-Stokes on the show. He's an old pal who's got a new film coming out called My Dead Friend Zoe. It's his first feature film and it comes out February 28th. It will be in theaters across the country. And we have a really great conversation. This is one of those films where, you know, I've been aware of it for a long time. It was workshopped in Sandbox. I think we've talked about it a handful of times before. But I've been aware of and been tracking this movie for quite some time. And it's finally coming out in theaters. And so we get into how he brought it to life. And, I think it's special to know something about a film like this. So we can kind of like dig in a little bit and really like pump the brakes on how he got this incredible cast. Ed Harris is in the movie. Morgan Freeman's in the movie. Natalie Morales is in the movie.
Sonequa Martin Green's in the movie. It's a really stellar cast. We dig in a lot on that. We dig in a lot on the music. There's some really great, frankly, pretty teachable lessons on how Kyle brought this movie to life. But I think the big thing that really hit both of us was like, Kyle has the why him and why now of this movie dialed in so well that you're just like immediately like, oh, this pitch is good. I see why people said yes. Yeah. It reminds me of Ryan Coogler when he pitched Creed. Sylvester Stallone, he told him, my entire life, I've been watching the Rocky movies with my father. This is like what bonded us. This is what made us together. And as I watched these movies and I love the Apollo Creed character, I always wondered what his son is doing, and I would love to tell that story. And this is what I think he's doing, and he came in with this personal story. I think Kyle has an even better connection to the source material. He wrote it. It's loosely based on his own life. And he was paratrooper in the U.S. Army. He enlisted in the Army a month before 9/11. And the movie is called My Dead Friend Zoe. It's about a friend of his that died, but it's a comedy. And whenever he went to pitch this movie to people, he told us this little story about how he would bring the shrapnel from his Humvee,
Mm-hmm.
So you instantly just...
You're like, oh, this guy's for real. And this is a fresh take on a movie that we haven't seen before. Yeah.
There's no better way to pitch directing a film than saying, I've lived this film and it's a really moving story. And it's his first movie and he got really famous actors to be in it. Yeah. And when you get really famous actors, you can actually get movies financed and you can get them into film festivals and you can get them distributed. So the movie should be out right now. It comes out February 28th. You can see it in theaters. It's on 700 screens. So, hey, why don't you be a good listener and go support our guest, Kyle Hausmann-Stokes, in his movie, My Dead Friend Zoe.
Before we jump into with our conversation with Kyle, I do want to ask you, Oren, how's your Magic Mind journey going?
Oh, good. I just got a new shipment. Like 2 days ago.
Congratulations.
Thanks. Yeah, I'm continuing to do that thing where I am trying to drink it closer to the important thing that I need to do.
I looked it up and it said it's supposed to give you energy for 7 hours.
Oh, really? I didn't actually know that.
Yeah.
That is good to know.
Yeah.
Tomorrow I have a tech scout, so I will probably drink it like in the car on the way to the tech scout. Because I have a shoot that has a lot of moving pieces and I need to be really sharp and really friendly. And I believe the Magic Mind will only increase the odds of me getting along with everyone.
Yeah, I think so. As I've said before, I'm kind of an anxious person and I feel like Magic Mind has helped me kind of regulate and mellow out a little bit. And so that has been the tangible, noticeable thing for me. It's pretty great. So... But also they sent us a sleep aid, Magic Mind. Yeah. And I have been sleeping better, I would say. What about you?
Yeah, I've only tried it once. I guess I don't know. They never told us if we should be like drinking it every night. I guess you said that it encourages good sleep if you're consistent with it. But I kind of use it a little bit more like I would use melatonin, which by the way, there is no melatonin in this product. But I drank it the other night because I was like, I had some late coffee. I had some chocolate. I was watching a movie and I had to wake up like 6 hours. I'm like, ooh, I should
slam one of these Magic Mind sleep elixirs and see what happens. And I slept very well. I did not hear my children trying to crawl into bed with us. My dog trying to wake me up. I was like, get out of here.
Just out. Yeah. I think I've been enjoying it because I've been more precious with my regular old Magic Mind because I know I'm going to take the sleep ones every night. And so like, I'm trying to save them for special occasions a little bit more. So
I know. I wish I just had like 10,000 of them. So I wouldn't be like hoarding them.
Then you just, I've got too many Magic Minds.
You're like Golem.
Yeah.
With your Magic Mind.
My Magic Mind.
Do you remember that one time you were at my house and you're like, hey, Oren,
give away all
Magic
your
Minds you got?
Yeah. In front of many guests on air. I did that.
Yeah. Anyhow, if you want to try it out, see what the hell we're yapping about, you can go to magicmind.com/shootitjan. Again, we don't know why it's shootitjan, even though it's already Feb, but that's how you get 45% off, which seems like a lot to me. I don't know. I don't know much about percentages, but 45% sounds, I mean, you know, if you ask me, might as well just do 50% off. But hey, I don't do the partnership programs. I don't plan them.
See the matrix. All the math doesn't.
45%.
We don't know what their margins are.
Not bad.
Yeah. Well, before we move into our conversation with Kyle, one final thing. Patreon.com/JustShootItPod is the place where you can throw us a buck or two to keep the show afloat. I don't know if people have been noticing, but like our social game is getting better.
Yeah, we put 2 videos out.
2 videos, but I feel very good about
You know, by the time this episode comes out, which is going to be a few weeks from now, there'll be 4 episodes up, for 4 videos up.
They probably will be. And that's thanks to your support. Our editor, Kevin O'Yang, is cranking things out. He's making things nice and tight, keeping the show interesting and cutting out all the boring stuff and offensive things that Oren says. So if you want to continue to be offended and keep the show going, throw us a buck or two. It really, truly helps.
For the record, I would rather be saying the offensive stuff than the boring stuff.
You sure?
Yeah, man. It's a new administration. So you get rewarded for offending people.
I guess so. All right. Well, on that note, let's hop into our conversation with Kyle Hausmann-Stokes. Stokes.
700 screens to start. Yeah, I'm so excited.
700 screens?
To start, 700 screens. Yeah.
To start. Yeah, just getting started. Get going.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
Then these are mostly smartphones or?
Mostly. Yeah.
A couple iWatches too, you know.
The original iMac or the colored one. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, congrats. Did you wrote the film too?
I did. It's a shared co-writing credit with AJ Bermudez. I wrote the film myself for maybe 2 years. Started in COVID. I think maybe I was on final draft version 32. But then for the final version that we shot, I worked with a writer named AJ, who I was put in touch with a friend of the podcast, Liz Manischel.
Oh, yeah.
And I love Liz so much. And so AJ and I tore it all apart and put it back together. And she was incredible to work with. So, yeah.
Awesome. Right. Because this movie is based on you.
It is.
You are Zoe.
I am Merritt in the film. Zoe would be one of my
dead friend.
Yes, one of my dead buddies from the military. But yes, I would be Merritt. And it's, I don't know, 93% autobiographical. A lot of truth in there.
Yeah. Wild stuff. So give us the log line before we dig into it, because this is one of those movies where like I've been tracking it for a long time. Like I said, we've known each other a long time. You workshopped it in Sandbox. So before I get ahead of myself, just give us the gist of the film for us, Kyle.
Yeah, My Dead Friend Zoe is about a female U.S. Army Afghanistan veteran who is haunted by the presence of her dead best friend Zoe. And she kind of lives in this comfortable existence, kind of shut out from the world. And all that gets upended when her mother kind of summons her to go to look after her grandfather, who's a Vietnam veteran. And it's a dark comedy and stars a lot of veterans and some other people as well. And
Yeah. Awesome.
That's awesome. Those other people, there's some up and comers, right?
They are. They have a real shot. Yeah.
Morgan.
Yes, Morgan Freeman.
Edward Harris.
Yeah.
I think it's Harris, actually. Edward Harris.
Sonequa Martin Green. I worked with her.
You did? On what?
If you ever fly Delta, you might
did
see
that.
a video.
I totally did.
Cedric the Entertainer and Sonequa.
Oh, nice.
Telling you how to connect to the Wi-Fi.
Good for you, Oren. I've always wondered who gets to direct these things.
Only the best of the best.
Dude, if you can get in there to do those flight safety videos where everybody's trying to one-up each other, I feel like you've arrived, no pun intended. But Sonequa was incredible. Yeah, I can't say enough amazing things.
The only time I'll ever watch a flight safety video is if I directed it.
Yeah. Otherwise, you just close your eyes. You're like,
horrible direction.
Yeah.
What? Exit signs are lit? Yeah. I don't even understand what that means.
I'd rather not know.
Yes. Why would you not put it on your kids first? That sounds counterintuitive to me.
It does sound counterintuitive. It's true. It's true.
I wonder if there's just a bunch of dead people. Not to jump into the topic of your story too.
I know, yeah.
Too soon.
It's in the title.
Just a bunch of dead parents that like put the oxygen mask on their kids first, you know?
Sure. I mean, would you be more convinced if there was stats of like, hey, listen, X number of people don't listen every single year. Don't be one of them.
They should listen, follow instructions, you know?
They should listen. Well, look, let's lighten it up a little bit more.
My dead friend Zoe.
I do actually want to start. There's two things that stood out to me about the film. It's great. It's wonderful. Congratulations. You shot it as a short first, and that really kind of got things going and really kind of launched the film into a more, I feel like I noticed some momentum, right? So I definitely want to talk about that. But then also your cast is incredible, right? How did you get all of these awesome people to be in your movie?
Yeah. In the military, which I was in the Army for 5 years, in the JAG Corps, which you guys probably know from is like TV legal stuff, they have this expression, the pen is mightier than the sword. And I always kind of like that because the short answer to that question is I wrote letters, good old fashioned writing letters. And it started with Ed. And I think I spent 2 days to write 5 paragraphs and I really poured a lot into it. I had done a lot of stuff prior to that. I mean, I actually had written the script first for maybe 18 months. I had it done. And the short was actually more of okay, I need to do something to generate inertia and proof of concept. But I had the short, I had this deck. I know we all have worked in commercials for many years, so that's like a very handy skill. But yeah, it was letters and it got to Ed. There's kind of a story there, but eventually he said he wanted to do it. That was really fun. And then it kind of became an Ed Harris picture. And that kind of changes the nature of everything. And then came Sonequa and Natalie, and then later Utkar Shambudkar. I'm sure people know from Ghosts and Brittany Runs a Marathon and Great Things, and Gloria Rubin. And then, our last person, literally 10 days prior to shooting, that character was Morgan Freeman. And it's quite the journey.
Awesome. So I want to rewind a little bit because it sounds like Ed Harris is the first big domino, right?
It was.
You alluded to a story. Tell us a little bit more. Crack that egg open for us, Kyle. Because it can't be as simple as like I worked really hard on a letter and then now I have an Oscar winner.
If you run it through ChatGPT like 20 to 30 times,
sure,
it gets really good. Like orgasm after the second sentence.
I do subscribe to that thing of I'm sorry if I had more time I would have written you less. I do subscribe to that. It's easy, especially now. Speaking of generative AI and just crap, like choosing your words very carefully in the order, and that's important, especially with fancy people. And when you're an unknown person like I was and still am, you got to make that first sentence count, and then the top of the second paragraph count, and in what order do you want people to be receiving things. But with Ed,
Kyle, I'm going to put you on the spot.
Tell me.
Can you read us the first sentence of that letter?
Oh man,
you're in front of your computer.
I mean, you could say it's top secret, like. Because if you know the first sentence, you basically can get Ed Harris.
Yeah, you can get Ed Harris to do it. You know what?
The golden sequence.
Man.
Dearest Eduardo.
Yeah.
You are going to put me on the spot. So, I don't know, Matt. You're really doing this for me. Yeah.
All right. Well.
But, I think there's actually a good story here because I'm my first time feature director. And, I've been in the commercial space for so many years and so eager to be out of it. And, coming through the process of, okay, now we're making a feature, casting director, find a production company. We can talk about all that. There becomes this kind of question that no one has a good answer to. How do you make offers? Do you say money? How long do you wait? This and that. So with Ed, I think we waited, God, what was it? 3 weeks, 4 weeks to hear. And then gosh, it was like nothing, checking it with CAA. I was unrepped at the time, I am now, but didn't have that to fall on. And then right as I was about to reach out and be like, so we're going to move on. We have to move on, just kind of checking back. His reps are like, okay, fine. Sorry, go away. Whatever. They didn't say that, but you get it. So I hung up and I'm driving home and kind of bummed about that. And then get a call from Ed's rep's assistant saying, wait. Ed might be interested. He might be interested. So we're like, okay, that's amazing. So we kind of expected to get a call maybe on Monday or the next week. No, 1 week goes by, 2 weeks go by. And we're like, here we are again. And eventually I called back and I was like, hey, God, it's been 6 weeks and, there was a timeline. There wasn't, but I made one as that's kind of a theme for me. And finally I called back and they said, oh, no, what are you talking about? He emailed you. And I'm like, no, he didn't. And so they're like, well, check your inbox. And I had in classic
you checked your Hotmail account.
Yeah. In classic, older person stuff, like my grandfather, he sent me an email with no subject line from, a name that I wouldn't recognize. And sure enough, it was this beautiful letter that he had read the script and loved it and had connected to it with some Vietnam veterans that he knew and that he'd love to meet. So, that was incredible, fell in my chair quickly and then started communicating with him to set up a time to meet. And I think a week later, I'm sitting in a diner in the Malibu, Patrick's Roadhouse. I don't know if you guys know it, like kitschy shit on the wall. I got there like 2 hours early. It was pouring rain. I have
Was it Choice, the diner?
It was, yeah, because he lives out that way. So I have everything ready. I have my deck, it's printed. I've got my stories. I've got a piece of shrapnel that I pulled out of my Humvee in Iraq. I've got stuff from my dead buddies. I have all this stuff that I'm getting ready to kind of present. And Ed walks in and takes off his hat and he kind of says, well, I read it again this morning and I'd like to do it. So then we just proceeded to have the best lunch ever. We split a tuna sandwich and it was great.
Did he pitch? He was like, I'm in the mood for tuna. You want half of it though?
He kind of did. And I'm pescatarian. So I kind of go for the tuna every time, no matter what. I'm like, well, I was going to get that anyway. And, we weren't that hungry. So it's kind of become a thing now where we tuna down and we meet for a tuna sandwich. That's adorable.
Yeah. I love that.
You and Ed Harris tuna down.
We tuna down.
How many times have we tuned down?
Twice, 3 times. Yeah, we kind of have our go-to. Yeah,
it sounds like you had. Sounds like all your meetings added up together, you ate one tuna sandwich
with all the halves. Yeah.
Now let's get serious about some stuff here. Do you call Ed Harris? Do you go to IMDb Pro? You say I want Ed Harris. I think he's good for the movie. Is this the lead role or is it more like a mentor role?
I would say he's supporting the leads of the film are Sonequa Martin Green and Natalie Morales, but Ed plays my grandfather, who is, yes, huge part of the movie.
He's got some screen time. Yeah. Like I think, whereas Morgan Freeman, I'd love to know, not to derail this too quickly, but like Morgan Freeman is a very important part of the film, but I'm gonna guess shot 3 days,
two, one and a half, and I got gallery stills as well. So
we'll circle back to that, but that's the kind of like Morgan Freeman has the classic thing of like a meaningful character who's like going to make a big impact, but he's in and out because he's essentially in one location and you just kind of sprinkle him throughout the movie, right? Ed Harris is not that. Ed Harris is like the second act of the movie.
So how many days do you have Ed Harris for?
I think we had Ed for 6 total. I think for 6. Yeah. And that was not including like coming up a few days early to kind of get settled and fittings and things like that. And
where did you shoot?
We shot in Portland, 20 days in Portland and then 2 days here in LA with a 0 day with a plus half day at the end. So you know how it goes. Yeah.
Okay. So you decide you want Ed Harris. You already know at this point, like, have you broken down the script? You know, you need him for 6 days.
I think maybe I pitched 5 initially because it fits nicely, and I think as we all know, as director,
1 week in and out.
Yeah. Sometimes it's nice to say a week because that could mean 7 days, that could mean 5 days. But I think I had I knew it was going to be at least that much, and if it wasn't, I was going to take what I could get. Right. So
right. Well, I'm trying to gather this list of data that you have. Obviously, you have this story. It's personal. You kind of revealed that you have like all these personal items, the shrapnel from your Humvee, items from your dead friends. Like you have all the stuff that makes it clear why you are the person that has to direct this film, right? Why you're right, and why it's coming from like an authentic emotional place, right? So you already kind of have this like authentic story that whatever actors you're involving in this are going to assume, well, at least this story is going to feel real because it's like a real story from a real person that's lived it. So you have that going for you. So and now you decide on Ed Harris. You know you need him for 5 days. Do you go to IMDb Pro, look where he's repped and call his agent? Do you have a producer that does that? What's the specifics of the next step?
I went with a casting director. So I think the order of operations was scripts and then taking a script and doing a short, I call it a proof of concept, even though it is kind of contained. It works on its own and it got into short of the week and all that cool stuff. With that,
you submit that short to like Sundance or any of that stuff?
I didn't because it didn't like work out in the timing of it all. And the kind of the origin story, and again, I'm so eager to share this with the Just Shoot It community because I'm such a fan, you know, and listen to this stuff as I'm walking the dog and like, oh my God, how can I do this one day? I did the short. I spent a lot of my own money to do it. That I can tell you, I spent $40,000 on this short of money that I straight up don't have or straight up out of savings, and did this thing. And then I threw myself a premiere like here in LA, Hollywood American Legion. That's kind of my home away from home.
That's cool.
I founded a veterans organization called Veterans in Media Entertainment. Shout out. It's an amazing organization. And so I just know that building very well. It's got a beautiful theater now. So
this is the one on
Highland.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I don't know if you haven't ever been inside, it is a tremendous theater. It is a world-class theater.
And a cool building in general. I've filmed there if you are looking for a cool building to film in.
Did you do the bar downstairs, Ron?
We did like all over the place.
That's awesome.
It was built by World War I veterans. Humphrey Bogart used to drink there. 2 guys have been shot there, you know, back in the 30s or something. It is
fully haunted, is what you're saying. Yeah.
But I know them. I kind of, you know, birthed my nonprofit there. And so on top of what I had already spent on the short, I spent, I don't know how many thousand more to like do a proper premiere on the big screen, paid for a DCP, this and that.
What's a proper premiere? Like, are you trying to like invite celebrities and stuff?
I kind of did. Yeah. I mean, I had one kind of known, I had 2 kind of known people in my short. I had Heskiri Velasquez. She was like the star of Saved by the Bell. She was like the new Zach Morris who could go time out for that. I had her, and then I had this guy, Tucker Smallwood, who was a veteran, and you can look him up. You probably recognize him from things, Contact. Anyway, I did a red carpet and a step and repeat and lights and a photographer. And it's all like, I don't want to say silly because I took it very seriously and everybody was very happy to be there, but I just kind of made it up, you know? And so we
this
had
short,
that.
It's 2.5 minutes. Is that how long
it was? It was 45 seconds. Yeah. The short was, gosh, I guess Virgin on Medium. It was like 14 minutes. It's a tight 14.
It's long enough that you can do like an intro and a Q&A and like turn it into like an hour-long screening event. Right?
And also, actually, Kyle, maybe this kind of plays into the bigger themes, but like, it had some big ideas and some issues, right? And so the Q&A afterwards wasn't just about like, hey, we shot on the Alexa 35 or whatever. You were talking about the ideas and themes and brought out experts to kind of, it's all coming back to me now because it was a while ago.
Oh, you went, Matt?
I did. Yeah.
Oh, cool. I know. The invite must have like not had a subject then.
Yeah. I said
from a name I didn't recognize.
If you invite Oren, I'm not coming.
No, Matt, you're right. And I guess the other thing, and again, I would recommend this because it worked so well. When I started kind of conceptualizing the short, I knew I wanted to be an impact film and partner with nonprofits because it's about, you know, my veteran community. And like you said, Matt, it's about mental health and talk therapy. And so I found 3 nonprofits, my favorite ones. They're some of the best in the country. Bob Woodward Foundation, The Mission Continues, Every Town for Gun Safety. They were kind of a part of it from the very beginning. And then for this premiere of my short, I had a panel. So it was me, it was the cast, and then it was a representative from each of those organizations. And yeah, Matt, we talked about stuff. We talked about the film, but we also talked about social issue stuff. And you know, the whole cast and crew was there. But then I also said it's a beautiful 435 seat theater. I said invite anybody, you know, invite people. I was hoping that people I didn't know, even though, And sure enough,
development execs, CEOs, dentists, anyone is welcome.
Dentists.
I think what people are, I am sure, are probably picking up on, but like the thing about it that I think worked so well is how seriously you took it, how legitimate it felt, like.
Did you wear a suit?
I did wear a suit. I wore a jacket. I had a jacket with
you thought about what you were wearing. The way you would think about what you're wearing at any old premiere, right? Like whether it's something you're putting up yourself or you're at the Grummers, you know?
And you had like a business card dispenser in your sleeve.
I had business cards. Yeah.
You know what would have been cool is if you would have casually screened a feature before the short.
This reverse order. Yeah.
But not to, I want to, all joking aside, I think like the big lesson there is like, you went all in. You were like, okay, I'm going to spend all of my money and make this thing that I'm really proud of. But then also, you didn't just submit it to Short a Week or like hope that it got into Sundance or whatever. You like made it a thing, right?
Made it a thing.
Not just by the effort, but like by thinking it through and being organized and saying like, okay, what are the contacts that I can work? What favors can I pull to make it feel as real as possible, with I think ultimately the result of having
a clear sense of momentum, right?
I mean, if you don't take yourself or your project seriously, why should anybody else?
Right. But then also, like, in indie film in particular, people talk about like people want to get on a moving train, right?
Yep.
So you jump started the train. The train was moving thanks to that level of detail.
A train in movement is a great way to look at it because I feel like if there's one takeaway from all of this, it is inertia, and you really have to just kind of make it up half the time, and and then you figure out once you get there. But the end of that premiere story is that there was a person there that I've never met before, a producer. His name is Richard, and he saw the film. He was very moved by it. I also threw a whole party in the basement of American Legion. We had music. One of my guys in the short, Tom Tran, he's a comedian, and he plays in a Star Trek band, so they played on stage. It was great. We had pizza, and randomly I had a bunch of Sapporo beer. I don't know what was up with that, but like, it was great. It was a good time. And then this guy pulls me aside, Richard. He's like, "Man, that was incredible. What do you have? What's the deal?" I was like, "Well, I have the feature written, and I've had it for a year and a half. It's 100% ready to go. There's a deck." And he's like, "Okay, I'm going to put you in touch with this company called Legion M, who Richard knew." And I literally had it in his inbox the next day, like super ready to go. And then we were off from there.
And is Legion related at all to veteran movies?
They're not.
Or anything?
They're not, but Legion M is a cool company. If you guys don't know about them, I would just look them up. They brand themselves as the first fan-owned company.
Oh, yes. Did we have like their CEO on the podcast or something?
We did, in fact.
Paul,
I think the week that this was all happening, actually.
Oh, okay.
Really?
Like, I was like,
sorry, I don't listen to the podcast.
Yeah, you should check it out. It's some good information in it. Yeah, like listeners, Kyle, you could tell us better of when this was specifically, but like, Legion M was on the show maybe literally the same week that this was all happening.
They were.
I
think I kind of remember because maybe Matt, I like sidebarred you. I was like, "Hey, Matt, maybe you'd say a nice thing or two."
Yeah. That's right. That's right. And I did.
And you did.
Yeah. So first you stole my idea of making a proof of concept. Then Matt got you Legion M to back the film.
Sure.
Well, this is why you guys are getting 50 points on the back end, right?
Sure. Yeah, that's right.
Out of 10 million points.
I think the original question is, how did you reach out to Ed? And the answer is
no, but this stuff is really fascinating, and
well, because honestly, this is the reason why Ed says yes, is the accumulation of all of these different things, right? Like now you got Legion M, which is a company that's got real movies behind them, right? Like Legion M partners with Neon all the time. Like you're building juice, so to speak.
Right.
Yeah.
And Matt knows this question is coming, and I apologize. It's so annoying, so predictable, and probably not important. But before we get to you talking to Ed, just tell us what's in this deck, the magical deck. I know I'm assuming it's not exactly like a commercial pitch deck, which,
I would say it was similar to the one that Matt sent me for his feature, Bad Feeling. But I don't know. I think a lot of us, you guys, I imagine your listenership is that our commercial folks, it was very similar to that. I think without the cool guy, like look at me because I use size 6 font in this big, beautiful photo. Like none of that design
It's my
crap.
pet peeve. Yeah, I'm 14.
Yeah.
But it was.
But it was
it was designed in InDesign. Do you know what I mean? I think to the layperson, if you showed them a commercial deck and your deck, they would be like, "Yeah, these are basically the same."
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah. But it's just so funny how you build these little bricks in your life and your career. But I don't think I could not have made a deck like that, having not pitched and been completely forgotten about on 9 out of 10 commercial jobs. Probably more. We're not all like you, Oren, who's just constantly working. So
hey, someone's got to steal all the jobs.
Yeah. But no, that's important too. And it's all about just visual communication, whether it's letter writing or in a deck. And I spent a lot of time on that. And like, what do I want to show first? And it was kind of a mix of maybe conceptual photos, like this was based on, my kind of ancestral family's lake house where my grandfather was, living. But then also like, here's photos of me in the army in Iraq, and here's photos of my buddies. But then here's photos of comps, because guess what? This is not a Debbie Downer film. This is a dark comedy. It's like a PTSD comedy, if you can believe that. And it's about post-traumatic growth. And it's not going to be like a veteran or military film you've seen before. So it was a lot of like, even the title, I feel like the title is one of the first things that came to me. It's like, I want something that is kind of sticky, that has a little edge to it. That's like, okay, we're not we're not gonna be too self-serious all the way throughout. And yeah, just kind of infusing all that into the deck.
And do you put the log line like right up front, like within the first couple pages?
Totally. Yep. Totally. Yeah. I mean, even we since now have, because we have a distributor and that whole process, but I even spent a lot of time, in the military, we use these things that you guys would call glow sticks. We call them chem lights, and it's like a bit of a talisman throughout the film. So even the title design I made in these like neon glowing chem lights that says My Dead Friend Zoe. So yeah, it feels like it has a vibe. It's like, okay, I can see the vision. I think it worked out somehow. So
you make me realize though, there is something special about like genre mashing, right? Like you can do like PTSD, trauma, war films. You can pull Terrence Malick and Clint Eastwood and also Judd Apatow, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, I see what you're aiming for here, right?
I have
Judd Apatow directed American Sniper, but with a rave aspect to it.
Yeah, exactly.
I have a Judd story, and I actually in a other interview, someone asked about an influence, and I actually said Judd. So one of my first jobs while I was at USC, intern, I was Jimmy Miller's assistant. Jimmy Miller's like a very high-powered manager for funny people like Will Ferrell and Jim Carrey and Judd.
I think Carrie Galogly, previous guest as well, was Jimmy's assistant.
Okay, yeah,
maybe right before you. If I think about timing. Actually.
Yeah.
Anyway,
But anyway, I kind of got to know Judd because I would roll calls with Jimmy, and I just remember I got a phone call one day out of the blue, and it was Judd, and he's like, "Hey, Kyle." I was like, "Oh, hi, Judd." He's like, "Are you guys funny?" And it took me a minute, and he was talking about like, "Are you guys veterans funny?" And I said, "Yeah, we're definitely funny." He's like, "Well, do you have anything?" Of course, I didn't, because this is so many years ago, and that was like my one opportunity. It's like, fuck, this was the chance. And Judd was trying to make something funny about veterans, and he tried. And I learned a little bit about maybe why it didn't come to fruition, but it always planted the idea in my head of like, yeah, funny veterans, funny, serious stuff. And I appreciate that about Judd's films in general. And King of Staten Island actually is right there in my deck as a tone. Knock knock, who's there? Not your dad.
Sure.
And that's our sense of humor in the military too. Like when you're in these situations, like it's all you got. So I wanted to kind of bring that into the film.
And do you think the deck helped with the actors and all that stuff?
What they tell me is it's the script, and I guess in some ways that's comforting, in other ways it's frustrating because it's the hardest thing, but all of them said it was the script more than anything else. Natalie, who can talk about Natalie Morales, who plays Zoe, I think she said she actually watched the short first. She's like, all right, I think she even literally says in an interview, let's see what this guy can do, or let's see what this is. But she watched that first, was intrigued, and then read the script. I should circle back and find out if they even looked at that deck. But
yeah,
I do think it is the black and white courier on the page that's kind of the thing.
Gets people there. Yeah, I always hope that the deck gives them a quick sense of the flavor, so that they know if they're in or out quickly. Because to your point of like, oh, you're waiting for people to respond. It takes 3 weeks. Then there are people say, hold on, they want to read it. It takes another 3 weeks, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, great. 2 months have gone by. You could have just said no if you'd looked at the deck and known whether you were into it or not. You know what I mean? The deck is there just to kind of be a primer, essentially. And then if you want to learn more, read the real thing.
There's so many gatekeepers on the way to someone like Ed or Morgan that you're doing different things for different people. So I also learned in my communications, like it has to be so hyper short, and it's just like, what are the dates? What's the money? How many days, what is it? Anything you can say that's like hyper short, that's like, okay, pay attention to this. And then once you pass that, it's like, let me kind of flip through this deck, because I guess technically, if you are making an offer, and I'm sure you guys talk about this on the show, if you're making a legit offer to an actor with money, they do technically have to take it to them. Doesn't mean, that they might stand behind it. But that's another one why, Matt, we even talk about this too, when people are like a little wishy-washy when they're reaching out, especially to big talent. It's like, no, man, you got to do all your other stuff over here, figure out your days and your number, and just, it can fit in 3 sentences and that's it.
But how do you know what that number is going to be when the final number is dependent on who attaches?
Right. It's like, it's one number for Ed Harris and it's a different number for Ed Paris who we haven't heard of, right?
Well, no. I guess
coming, yeah.
maybe it's like, hey, we can give you $500,000, but if you have Ed Harris in this, you can get 1.5 million. Right.
Yeah,
so
your budget goes up if you bring in name talent, right?
Yeah. I feel like I would love to. I've done this a total of 1 time, more than tuna down, Oren, but a total of 1 time. So I'd like, once I do this, hopefully again and again, I can comment on that more. But it really, annoyingly, I think it is a little bit of chicken and egg, and there's no right or wrong answer.
Mm-hmm.
I guess I would also just say too, like at a certain point, I just got more bold. And I got less afraid of, like, there's no film police. And I used to think that there's an offer and it's like a piece of paper that a lawyer and you're going to take it to a bank. It's not that. It's an email. It's an email sometimes with less than 12 words in it, and if you say these words and then days and weeks go by and things change, are you going to be thrown in the gulag for that? And like, no, like stuff happens all the time. So I think it's just a matter of like, don't blatantly lie. But I think so many people in Hollywood, even at the highest levels, like are all just kind of bluffing until you're not. So you just have to like, I don't know, find that confidence to get to that point and hope for the best.
Right. Well, sorry, so the final question on casting. So you hire a casting director to make all these calls for you?
Yes. And that is actually, in terms of tangible, making the jump to features advice, at least for me, and my one thing was, I was able to convince Legion M to spend money on a budget and a line producer and a casting director. It was like not that much money. It was maybe $5,000. It's like $2,500 for a budget, $2,500. It's like a down payment on a casting director with a deal memo that says you're going to be paid, properly once this is funded. Sure. So then once we had that, and this was like Jamie Castro, who's my casting director, who I love so much. And she's not from the commercial world. I met her when I was doing a short film, and she worked for a big casting director named Linda Lowy. Anyway, there's these people that you kind of get to meet over the years. And it was through Jamie that I would, we would check avails, and then ultimately make offers. And I feel like more than anything else, to your point, Oren, like, yeah, you're right. Like, is this person avail? How much do they cost? They don't give quotes anymore. And so a lot of with Jamie and her assistant would just be like really quick avail checks, just like generally, are we in the world? And they don't even touch the agent. They don't even touch the talent. It's just like, what's the deal? Sure. And then once we figured that out, then we could be like, okay, here we go. Then I would come back to Legion M and Paul, who is the owner of the company, and we would talk about it and be like, okay, looks like this could be a thing. And I would get my letter ready. And we would, but it was all offers. Like everything we did was offer only, straight up. So yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And then when you have someone like Ed Harris or Morgan Freeman, do you have to put them up at like a 5-star hotel and do all the fancy stuff?
Yeah. I don't know about 5-star, but yes, they definitely have a contract. It was that, but yes, they have got stuff in their contract for that. I totally did not account for in our budgeting. And of course,
it's a thing that people don't. Yeah. I mean, the thing is working commercials, it's like based on your website, you've directed many, many of them for a lot of very big brands. You see agencies flying out in business class or first class and going out to these $3,000 or $4,000 dinners, and you're like, oh, I can't get the Steadicam, but we just had a $3,000 dinner somehow.
I get a steak and no one cares. Yeah.
But it's like, if you're Morgan Freeman, like you're kind of you can't stay at a Motel 6. Right, you can't even really stay at a Best Western, like. Not just because it's not comfortable, but also because the people there might not be used to people like you, and they might just be bugging you the whole time.
I will say, those are good problems to have. Like once you get to that point, and then there's Ed and Sonequa, and now we're, oh my God, we're shooting and this is happening. Yes, then it started to snowball. Then we're able to find more money, and then you're constantly building. And then it's like, okay, we're going to have Morgan, and there's additional costs with that, and then you just figure it out. And the cool thing about, again, speaking of your train analogy matter, inertia, once this stuff is going, it is not easy, but easier to go out to just people. There are wealthy people all over. There's producers and be like, hey, I'm also big on specificity. I hate ambiguity. It's probably the veteran in me, but like, I don't do this thing like, hey, we're looking for like, $250K to, 400. I'm like, no, I've got 3 EP slots available for $250K each. I just made that up. That's not real. It sounds pretty good. It's tangible. You can visualize it,
Sure.
And then same thing. It's like, we've got Morgan, but it's going to cost X amount for these other things. We can't do it. I need help. Gosh, I wish someone could help me with that. And here's a guy, and he's like,
right. You know the number. Yeah. It's like, it's not, you don't say like, boy, Morgan Freeman, needs a bigger crafty budget. You say, hey, I need X number of dollars because Morgan's attached now. And that comes with costs.
He only eats the red M&Ms,
right?
Which are actually the most expensive of the M&Ms.
Yeah. And the worst for you, I think.
The red number is 9, 7, 40.
Great. So then, but it sounds to me like then once Ed was on board, like I said, he's the big domino, and everyone else, it becomes a lot easier, right?
Correct. I would also like to say Ed is maybe the most down to earth, chill guy ever. He is so not, bougie. He's such a real normal guy. And you always hear about people talking about BTS, like so-and-so sets the tone, like that for sure. I mean, Sonequa and Natalie also, because they were on set, they're in every scene of the movie, basically. But yeah, Ed was, I don't know. I feel like it could have been like, Ed, look, we've got a tent. It's pretty good. It comes with a fishing pole. He'd be like, all right. And he's so, not to say if you book Ed Harris that you give him a tent, but he was incredible to work with.
Maybe circling back to the point about accommodations, Oren, I think your point is really apt that like
let's title this accommodations, accommodations.
But like your point is like people need to be comfortable, but they also need to have a level of anonymity to be comfortable, right? So even if you're at like a very nice, I don't know, Holiday Inn that's nearby or something, it's just like if there's just like a big open courtyard and Ed Harris has to shoot for 12 hours a day and then like schlep through the lobby of someplace public, that creates an extra layer of discomfort.
Holiday Inn is only one bellhop per person. Yeah. And Harris famously has a lot of stuff.
I feel like that's going to be your guys' unpaid endorsement. I'm sensing a sponsorship here.
I'm a Holiday Inn Express guy myself.
I will say this is an opportunity to plug. I mean, look, I want production to come back to LA literally, but also we shot in Portland and it was incredible. And they had great crew there that have been on big shows. And I can't say enough good things about it. I think it was also a tax rebate thing. We were looking at South Carolina, and then Outer Banks is like, oh, they're going to come back and suck up all the crew and money. And so I was actually at a New Year's party, and some producer guy was like, have you ever thought about Portland? And I hadn't, and I wrote the script for Wisconsin, but it kind of felt, similar enough. One interesting thing, he said, don't underestimate the value of being on the same time zone as LA and only being a little hop up from Burbank. And man, did that come in handy like 100 times.
How so?
Just, I don't know, for talent, for Morgan, for other folks, I could but really Burbank to Portland, I could just do it. Look, in the beginning, I paid out of my own pocket for so many things to go and like hire a location scout and put myself up at the Holiday Inn, and it was just so much easier than flying across the country and trying to compete with all the big shows in Atlanta or New York. So, and then,
Kyle, if you do go back to the Holiday Inn, if you give him the code, just shoot it 20.
Just shoot it. Okay.
Get 20% off.
I think there's also something about like it being a town that's pretty nice. Like
nice. Portland. I mean, they have some of the best cronuts.
Sure.
They do.
And on the West
Vegan
Coast.
ice cream. Yeah.
Oysters.
Yes, a lot of adult dance establishment.
Sure. Yeah. That's right.
They have a very fancy camera house, corner camera, KOERN. So we shot, I think, Alexa 65 with like Panavision lenses anyway, they are ready for production.
Wait, that's like IMAX?
Which one?
The Alexa 65 you said you shot?
Isn't that what it is? 65?
35,
sorry. Alexa 35.
I think there is a Alexa 65.
That's the big format one, though.
Yeah, that's the large format.
It wasn't that. It wasn't an LF. It was like whatever one up is from LF.
Were they like, Christopher Nolan has this camera.
Yeah. So like, we'll take the other one.
He doesn't need this one today. So the other thing, sorry, Oren, did you have something?
Just one last question on casting, because I am kind of curious about this. Like Natalie Morales and Sonequa Martin Green, like they're obviously great actors. Like I said, I worked with Sonequa. She's awesome. She's the lead of a Star Trek show. Natalie Morales has been in a million things. How do you think of them to be the leads in your movie? Like, how does that occur to you? Because, Matt and I, we talk about this. I mean, all filmmakers talk about this. Like, what's like a TV actor or someone that's like, I can get them maybe for 20 days, but people will recognize them. Like how do you find those people? Or is that something the casting director kind of helps show you some names and stuff?
That for sure. I mean, Jamie and I had the most tricked out, Google Doc of just copying and pasting just faces. Like I would say stuff, she would say stuff, just like very messy in a great way. Just all these different names. What if this? What if that? I've just always been a fan of Sonequa since The Walking Dead. I don't know if you guys remember her on that.
Right. I forgot.
And then
that's
was always
actually a good hack, honestly. If you just look at the list of people who were in The Walking Dead, that's a good place to start, right?
Yeah. She's also like, she does a good
Zombie
job.
number 7.
Yeah.
Great.
She does a good job of being like, she's between The Walking Dead and then playing Captain Michael Burnham on Star Trek Discovery for 5 seasons. And she's like so world famous from that. Like before I even knew her, because now I know her so well and like she's one of my favorite people, but she just has that like presence, you're like thinking, okay, who could do soldier, veteran, and also kind of heavy, whereas Natalie, can do light and dry and all that stuff. But like, I really thought Sonequa could do that. And I also, and this is going to sound a little bit hokey, but like, I wanted to find people that were like in social change, like I was. Like, this is an impact film. I'm trying to say something with this movie. It ends with a very direct call to action. There's a QR code. It's like we're doing a whole campaign, and I did my research. Like this was like all COVID too, but like I just sat in my little chair for 18 hours a day and just all the research in the world. And I found that Sonequa was kind of an activist. She had her causes that she was, and so that was actually part of my letter to her. And she says this in her interviews, is that she was really taken by my letter, saying that like, I think that maybe you're like me, or that I feel like you might be into trying to do something that like means something. And for her, she was like, hell yes for that.
Yeah,
so,
that's great.
Yeah. That's cool. So what, you asked your casting director for a list of all the actors that quit Twitter or something?
That was for activism. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, they just ditched their Teslas.
Good idea. Yeah. Hey man, it's a good car. I'm sorry.
Little bird. Okay, so then I think all of that makes a ton of sense. The other thing that really stood out to me, because, through this show and just from loving movies, I watch a decent number of indie films, right?
Yeah.
And your soundtrack is very expensive, right? Like the needle drops, because your characters really explicitly like bond over music. Like an iPod plays a very key role in a lot of scenes. And so those drops are thousands and thousands of dollars. It's not like you can just go on to, Airbnb.com or whatever and like download.
What's that site? There's that site that every YouTuber is like, oh, you want to use famous music in in your content?
What is it? Yeah, there is one now.
Stripe or something like that.
Something like that. Yeah. But the point is like, there's lots of very good music that you can get inexpensively now, but the audience, the public, doesn't have a relationship with it. And your film needed people to have at least familiarity, but most likely a relationship to the songs that your characters are bonded over, right? And so having, done lots of stuff with no music budget, and then stuff like that one, we would spend like as much on production as we would on music. Like, it was so essential to them that they playing like the most popular, like Katy Perry songs would be in like an internet video. We'd spend like $20,000-$30,000 on a video, and I'd be like, "What?" Right?
Yeah.
Right. So, but like your movie opens with a Jay-Z track. You know what I mean? So talk to me about. It's not important to hear numbers, because the point, like, I'm going to assume there's some 5-figure drops in there, right? Like some expensive songs.
They were expensive. Yes.
How do you deal with that when it comes to producer? Walk us through that. Because that means that there are other sacrifices that you're making, right?
Totally.
There's going to be a day where you're like, well, shit, I could have had a Steadicam, but instead I have this Jay-Z song,
Right. It was, I mean, I guess it's technically, you're right, it is a Jay-Z song, but it's Rihanna,
sure,
Umbrella.
He just has a verse, pardon me.
Yeah. No, he's a producer. I know, because I did. I'm a lead producer, PGA producer of this movie, and I did all of the stuff. And you find out the sync license, and then the recording, and all of the people and all these names that are connected. And Umbrella was a tricky one. But so we have Rihanna's Umbrella, and then I have Labyrinth's Power Couple. I think it's Labyrinth from like Euphoria. I didn't have Labyrinth. I didn't have either of those songs while we were shooting. So again, inertia, leap of faith. You got to just go for it. I knew that Umbrella, the lyrics of it specifically.
They're singing along to Umbrella.
Yeah, they
didn't have the rights to it. So it's not just like, okay, well, we'll find a great song and you guys just kind of like sort of dance and, we'll figure it out. Like you had committed to these characters. Okay, tell us more. Yeah.
I did 3 options. I made myself 3 options to shoot on set. I had that. I had Brandy's best friend, and I had a music supervisor at that point in the shoot. I actually had just hired one like a week prior because I'm like, oh my God, we're getting close to LA. That's when they're going to be singing in the car. It was like so germane to the film that they say these words together. And so at that point that's when we did bring on a music supervisor, gave her the whole pitch. And I was like, okay, Umbrella. I know it's crazy, but just, what do you think? She's like, no way. No, there's absolutely no way. I was like, well, okay, let me watch me try. And then I had that. I had Brandy's best friend, and then I also had the Golden Girls. Thank you for being a friend. Remember that? Sure, I thought that would be kind of cool.
Going down the road and back again.
There was a guy who went viral for like singing that theme song, but like
I've seen it.
Just going for it. And it's so good.
It's so
You're
good.
like, yes, this song is really good.
Yeah. Well, and this is interesting in Final Draft, how you can do dual dialogue. So I didn't realize this, you can have tri-dialogue. So I had, you can imagine on the page, and then I had, Merritt and Zoe singing. I had Umbrella lyrics a little bit, then I had Brandy, and then I had Best Friend. And now here we are on set, and it's Santa Clarita, and it's hot, and it's like, oh my God, and they're in Battle Rattle, and this and that. And I'm like, they have to wear an earwig so that they can hear it. You guys know the whole thing. Like, okay, here we go. Let's do version 1, take 1. And then we actually got to the point where we were falling so behind that I kind of just had to make this command decision. I'm like, I asked Sonequa and Natalie, I'm like, okay, we got to stick with Umbrella because I got to go for it. But of these 2, and they're like, Brandy all the way, screw the Golden Girls. And then we just did those 2. And then that was it. And it was burned into the movie forever. And I had to just say, well, I'm going to have to figure this out.
So did you know, I assume Umbrella's more expensive than the Brandy track. Did you have a ballpark of like, okay, well, this is my escape lane. I know we can afford at least one of these.
So here's another fun fact. As soon as we finished shooting the movie, didn't have a Dailies processor, couldn't afford it. Dailies was literally just me on my laptop, at this Airbnb. So I had all the footage. We had proxies made. I get home and I spent like 2 days and I just put together like a 4-minute supercut of just like, it's not really a story, but it just kind of looks cool, a tone piece. And I set it to this Labyrinth song. Now I have a thing. And I had the scene that I had shot in that Humvee using Umbrella. It's a short enough scene. I could edit it. It was fine. And then I was able to find a connection to Rihanna's manager through someone else at Legion M who kind of knows his wife or something like that. Wrote, wait for it, another letter. But now it's got a link to, this scene so they could actually see it. This is a quality production, whatever it is. And then I just said, man, it would mean the world to me. And we're trying to do something here. This is like an impact film. And I think pretty quickly they got back and they said, we don't give Umbrella to anybody for anything, but we believe in Merritt's journey. And so we're going to give you a crazy deal. So we definitely still had to, at that point again, go back to the, oh my God, we need money. But
we
now
believe in Merritt's journey, like the character in your movie.
Correct. Yeah.
Wow. I admittedly have not seen the movie, but I'm now putting together that Merritt is Sonequa Martin Green and that the Merritt character is based on you.
Yes.
Can I ask, was the plan always to change the genders?
Totally. Yes. So there's the 3 things I knew first about this movie, going back to even before I was even thinking about making a feature, was I knew that it was going to be women. If I got the opportunity to make a film about the military specifically or veterans, that it would be about women. I'll tell you why in a second. I knew the title, My Dead Friend Zoe, it just kind of came to me. And then also that I knew that it was going to be funny. I knew that it had to be. So why women? Because it is so autobiographical to me. And then my dead buddy Ramirez, he's not a female, he's a male. When I was in the military, I was in the infantry, and the infantry is only for men. So I was a paratrooper in the infantry, and when I was in Iraq, I didn't serve next to women because that's just how the Army is. And probably will go back now with our current administration, but I didn't have that experience. So I get out of the military, go to USC, I graduate. I start a production company that focuses on veteran things. I did this big campaign for the VA, mental health campaign called MakeTheConnection.net. Very proud of it. It's all about mental health. It's like a catalog library of if you're a Vietnam era Asian American female Air Force, I've got 5 videos down there for you of someone just like you that's talking about mental health or whatever. I did that for 4 years. I interviewed hundreds, maybe close to 500 veterans face to face for an hour at a time. It was like I would do a 20 a weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and I would like go into my hotel room and just cry. It just, it was a lot, but it was important. And I met so many incredible women, like so many, and I had never had that experience in the military. And I was just like, man, these stories, I don't know these stories, and I'm in the military, and this is interesting to me. So I guess at that moment, I kind of made this decision. I'm like, if I get the opportunity to make a film about us, it's going to be about my story, but it's going to be about our story as well. It's going to be some me, and then I'm going to have other opportunities to change it a little bit. So yeah, that was the reason.
Cool. Pretty good reason.
It's not a marketing thing.
Sure.
Yeah. Yeah. I will say along the way, investors, producers, people that are commenting this and that. Yes, there was definitely questions about can this be men? Should this be men? Because I don't know, the industry is sexist or whatever it is, or and I was just like, I really had to stick to my guns, and I was like, no, it can't. It has to be this. And even the title, can we change the title and adding violence? And I was like, no, I don't want to have violence. Like, stop making us a trope. And there's just so many things that I really had to stick to my guns. But yeah, you got to be careful. The industry definitely wants to put you in a box for sure.
Sure. Or make a movie that they've seen before, right?
Yeah. But I will say about the music too, like that was another one. Like I love indie film also, but I just think there's something about commercial that just helps, right? Especially when you're going from 0 to 1, which is so hard. And so there's also a lot of discussion about what about her, or what about this song, and it wasn't known, And so I don't want to say it was me being stubborn, but maybe more just like patient and just like not giving up and be like, let me write some more letters, let me do or this or that, and like let's do it, let's get it.
Just as a point of clarification, you mean you wanted to make a commercial film, is what you're saying? Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and it's interesting because I think people are drawn to independent film for many different reasons, but I think you and I share this philosophy of like, I love indie. I love like a mumblecore with wandering, meandering movie that would put Oren to sleep. I love it. Sign me up. But also, that's not what I want to make. And that's, I think that, speaking of putting things in boxes, our generation thinks of indie films as sometimes needing to be boring or self-reflexive or talky, right? And you can do all of those things, but I think that you can also make a movie that is exciting, is commercial, is popcorn, is funny, is strange, and like push some boundaries for sure. But that doesn't mean the same boundaries over and over and over again. You know what I mean? Yep. Yeah, it doesn't have to be an endurance test.
I think this is my personal opinion. I think it's harder. I think it's harder to like make something that's good but also enjoyable, because I think we can all go off and make our niche thing that's cool and interesting to us, and it's like bucking the industry. I think it's harder to like fully paint within the lines, but still do something good. Yeah.
Like you cast famous people and you got famous music for your first movie. How important do you think that is for I know your movie comes out on February 28th, I believe.
It does, yeah.
Like, a lot of people for their first movie are missing those two components.
Sure.
Yeah.
And a lot of them go on a podcast and say, if I had to do it all over again, maybe I would get a recognizable face.
It also, I should say, just to complete the package, it looks like a movie. Do you know what I mean? Like you shot it on the big fancy
you shot it on the
yeah.
iPhone 16 Pro, right?
You're right. Exactly. Yeah. But like to the lay person, they don't know that this was a South by Southwest film. You know what I mean? They watch it on Netflix or wherever, and they just think it's a regular old movie,
Yeah. I mean, I think, Oren, to what your question was developing to be and then also, as Matt said, yes, we got into South by, we premiered at South by, and we won the audience award there. And I think a huge part of that is because there are famous faces involved, and that just kind of is what it is. And, again, I'm nobody, I'm this commercial guy that has been doing this for a long time, but like, who am I, So it's like, I guess I don't know why I would expect someone to turn up to see my movie. Hopefully maybe they'll see the third or the fourth one, but I don't know. I think there's something to be said about, combining those elements that are familiar to people, but in kind of a unique way. And
did they come to South by?
They did.
Ed and Morgan?
Morgan did not. Morgan is very expensive to travel places. Ed was out of the country shooting. He was over in London. Sonequa was there. Natalie was there. Utkarsh was there. Gloria Rubin. I don't know if you guys remember her from ER and Mr. Robot. I was there. It was great. We had my veteran cast there. I produced another party, a $50,000 after party that I got sponsored, and it was a dream come true. It was so cool.
Is Natalie and Sonequa famous enough to just like get you into any party? Like if you roll up with them, or are they just like on the cusp?
Yeah, I think they are. I mean, and Sonequa,
if you show up with Morgan,
sure.
It might be worth just traveling him with you just to get into parties.
You might save $50,000. Who knows?
Man, my liver hurt. I'm getting too old. But no, I mean they were so great, and it was also just like the whole experience. I didn't even know was a thing. Like you go there, there's like the studios, the Deadline, the Hollywood, Variety. There's what was the thing we did? Banana Republic sponsored this thing, and there's just like a rack of $500 jackets. They're like, take whichever one fits you, and let us take your photo.
Take free?
Yeah. So it was so cool. It was really surreal. And guess what? I also had my impact partners there as well. Like that after party was featuring them. I had QR codes on the table that people could, like, after they had just seen the film, they could then donate to my impact partners. We had another band, Dan Romer, who scored Station 11. He was my composer, and he wrote an original
Beasts of the Southern Wild, and like he's like one of my favorite to write to. Actually, he's
me
like,
too. Good.
Yeah,
that's why I reached out.
Awesome.
That's why I reached out to him.
That's cool.
Yeah. And he produced we created like an original song that he made with this banjo player named Kaya Cater, and so they played the song on stage. It was so cool, man. I had so many veterans there. It was really cool.
Can we unpack it just a tiny bit more? Because I bet there's a group of people, maybe even myself included, who like understand all of the fun, right? Like you get like, okay, there's a gifting suite and you do the red carpet and the press, right? The value of all of that. Like there is, it's fun, but also it's business, right? It is work in a way that outsiders maybe don't understand, but like you're there to sell the film, right? What's the logic behind a big party?
I think part of it was for my impact partners. I mean, again, because they were with me from the jump, from the short, when it was just this, here in LA, and it was smaller. Like I said, I genuinely hope this film is something that is entertaining to watch. And then at the end, you're very emotional, and in a place like, what can I do? Boom, here's these 3 logos. And so like that was a very natural transition to.
So you're corralling people to like give them a little more time to like literally an excuse to scan QR codes for this, for these different.
They each, and then I had yet another step and repeat at our after party with our own photographer that had their logos on the back. So there's just like more impressions of their logos. And then also, I think for us, we had so many people that came out just because it's South by, and we had so many people that came out, and I don't know, producing a party is so not, I don't want to say it's easy, but compared to what we do as directors, producers, it's the same stuff. And and then at that point it's South by, and people want to be a part of stuff too. So you can find sponsors. We had Matthew McConaughey's Tequila Código Pantalones was our, it's just like,
that's a very funny name for Matthew McConaughey's tequila.
Yeah, it makes sense, right?
That's really
because why? Because you drink the tequila and then your pantalones are
not all right.
I have to bring up, you have like a late stage EP step in. Maybe he caught a ball or he threw a ball. I should know what position this very famous football player plays.
Is it Tom Brady?
Name another football player.
Peyton Manning.
Give me one more.
Eli Manning.
That's not a Manning.
Jalen Hurts.
Famous girlfriend.
Travis Kelce.
Travis is an EP, and that actually happened right before we started shooting. One of our producers, Ray Maiello, he had a connection to Travis's business managers and had kind of told them about the project. And Travis is very supportive of military and veterans. And as we've all seen in the news, has kind of making his moves towards Hollywood. So, man, talk about right place, right time. Again, we had all the stuff we were shooting. Morgan was already in it. He's also a fan of Morgan. So it's like,
the train's running. Hey, Travis, this is right up your alley. Do you want to be a part of it? And then it's an easy yes, basically.
Yep.
Cool.
Yep.
Cool.
We'll be wishing him luck on Sunday.
Yeah.
News
to me.
What is that?
If you don't want to see the Super Bowl, you can see a good movie called My Dead Friend Zoe, which will be playing at the Santa Barbara Film Festival at the same time as the Super Bowl. Yeah.
Are you serious?
Yeah. We have 2 screens, so it'll also be playing on Tuesday. But yes, I will be there probably by myself, giving a Q&A to the usher, but
you should like pass out like nachos and like pizza, like Super Bowl food,
Yeah, that would screen the game like with the sound off on another wall of the theater.
Or just have an intermission where you bring out some puppies to play football.
Yeah,
or just play some commercials and some of your commercials in the middle.
Yeah.
I'm not really a sports ball guy. I play sports. I just don't watch it. And so I actually I advocated with Santa Barbara to be like, please give me a weekend. Like, got to have a weekend. And they're like, okay. I didn't even realize what I was signing up for.
Are you sure?
Yeah. Well, they didn't either, but we're at 6 p.m. I think 6 p.m. on Super Bowl Sunday. So I don't know. Maybe it'll be fourth quarter by then, but
sure. That's awesome, Kat.
Wait, before we wrap up, can you just tell us what's next? Does this lead to the next feature? Are you're disavowing commercials and now you're going to be...
I am not disavowing commercials. Films? Please, Oren, step aside and hire me. It is so hard to have income while making an independent feature film in which you're doing all the things. So I would love to do, because that is the one thing that doesn't happen with all of this. But South by...
Sorry, actually, just to pump the brakes for a second, because we've talked about it, but it's a reality that we never really talk about on the show, but I think every indie filmmaker has to deal with. At a certain point,
even studio filmmakers, I feel like are making one movie in 6 years and they made like $250,000 or something.
Like, okay, well, I need to live on something. But then also, Kyle, all of these awesome producers who have done incredible work for you and have put you in touch with Travis Kelce and all that stuff, they're not part of the equation right now, right? When it comes to like the person who's mailing the DCP to the Santa Barbara Film Festival,
I'm the post producer.
You're the guy.
Well, and I have been. I'm not an island. There are so many people on this team, and I wouldn't be here without any of them. But yes, at a certain point, I feel like I tell people, kind of no one's home anymore. There's me and Paul from Legion M, and we have this, this family of people who are there. But yes, people have moved on. I feel like my DP Matt has shot almost like 2 other films. I'm like years later. So yes, that is maybe a separate conversation. But I don't know how to figure that one out. I hope to get there. And to answer Oren's question, I have 2 things coming up. I've written another script with AJ, my co-writer. My Dead Friend Zoe is about women. This film is about men. You guys would like it. It's called Men's Group, and it's about adult male friendship and and loneliness also, and how men suck at it. So it's like it's a dark comedy with some real kind of pathos in there. And then through my reps, which I have now because of all this, which is great, I was put in touch with kind of the big producer, and I'm working on a movie that will be about football and baseball. It's a true story about brothers making their way to the NFL and MLB simultaneously. So, but it's heartfelt. It's a sports movie, but it's like a Jerry Maguire kind of movie, my kind of sports movie. So yeah, that's what's next.
Awesome. Just for listeners at home who can't wait to go see My Dead Friend Zoe, it's in theaters on February 28th. So plenty of people will be listening to this for the first time when it's in theaters. How else can they keep track of the film and you and maybe your impact partners as well?
We have a website, mydedfriendzoemovie.com, but
and it's worth saying that Zoe is spelled Zoe.
Oh, sure, that's worth saying.
No umlaut or no Y, right?
Yeah.
Yes, with an E, no Y. We're on social media. My Dead Friend Zoe. You can just look it up. I'm also on Instagram, Kyle at Kyle Hausmann-Stokes. You can just type in a few of those letters. I have a weird long name. So, but yeah. And then my impact partners, they are on the website as well. But it's The Mission Continues, the Bob Woodward Foundation, and Every Town for Gun Safety. And yeah, please check it out. And look, guys, I'm an indie filmmaker, first time Just Shoot It listener, taking notes, 5-6 years ago of all the people that you guys have talked to. So like, I just want to shout you guys out for doing this. You don't get paid for this. Like, so we appreciate you. And
we get paid in Magic Mind.
Yeah.
Hey, yeah. I think I've been in like a small Patreon for many years now, but not enough to even get the stuff. But anyway, yeah, I appreciate you guys. And look, it would mean a lot to us if people saw it in theaters. I know it sounds so cliche, but I can't believe we got a theatrical release. And I feel like this film has already kind of broken through so many different barriers. And I just hope that this could be like a message where we could show it's like, look, people are actually willing to turn up to see an original film. Mm-hmm. And I should also say this too, like it didn't sell right away after South by because it's a drama, mm-hmm. And of course we finally found one, but I don't know. I just feel like the one way that we can do stuff is use your AMC A-list pass or whatever it is. And just like, yeah, that would mean a lot to us. So
Who's distributing it?
Briarcliff. So they did The Apprentice. They have Magazine Dreams coming out. Valiant one they did Werewolf. There's Tom Ortberg. He's one of the creators of Lionsgate. Its company.
You want to do a quick unpaid endorsement?
Unpaid endorsements.
Is that your voice, Oren? Unpaid endorsements?
It's Charles Hood, who was our second guest. He did a movie called Night Owls with his old college buddy, and we've used it ever since.
Unpaid endorsement.
Yeah.
Boom, 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 boom.
My unpaid endorsement is the cold open for the music documentary, the SNL music documentary. Have you guys seen this?
No.
I almost sent it to you, Oren, today, but I was like, no, he'll steal it as an endorsement. It is like a 6-minute long. Well, first of all, Questlove co-directed it with Oz.
Yeah, I saw it, like Tim Wilkine posting a lot of stuff about it.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very cool, exciting documentary. But the cold open is like essentially a 6-minute long montage. God, I'm blanking on the term now. What do you call it when like a mashup, basically a visual mashup of like people like announcing acts, and then you just go through this crazy catalog of all of the different musicians who all had huge songs on SNL for the last 50 years overlapping one another. And it is a masterclass in both editing and music editing combined together. So if you just Google it, I'm sure it's on YouTube or wherever. I saw it, just on social media. It's awesome. It's really
send
really
it
cool.
to me.
Yeah. And like, you're like, oh, right. Everyone has been on SNL. It's really cool.
Except for us.
Yeah. Sure. We'll see. You ain't dead yet. Kyle, what you got, bud?
I have two. I'm very looking forward to this. My first one is technical. My second one is refreshment based. There's this app that is called Shotter, SHOTTR. It is a screenshot app. And I know that you can just screenshot, Apple Shift 3, 4, whatever it is. This has fully changed my life. It's like, it'll take a screen grab, same kind of shortcut keys, but then it pops up almost like a basic Photoshop window with all these things you can do, like arrows and text, and you can copy it without having to save it. The other thing I do all the time is like, you can piece together things. So I can like do a screenshot of here, and that doesn't really go away yet. And then I come back to the website and screen grab that. And even last night at 3 a.m. as I'm working on DCP stuff for Company 3, I'm like, it's 12 frame transition here. It's like I'm screenshotting Resolve and pointing at things with little, so it's incredibly efficient. And my second one, and I got this.
Do you pay for it?
It is free. It's free to try, I think, for 30 days. This guy who makes it is so great. He's just one of these lovely coder people, but it's shotter.cc, SHOTTR.cc.
No E.
No E. I think it's basically free. I think it's like $3 or something. And then my second one, and I got these guys randomly to sponsor us on sets on the movie, which you can do, I didn't realize, is non-alcoholic athletic brew. It's so great. Probably not the first one, but I drink them all the time now. And
the non-alcoholic beer thing, for the longest time, it was like gross. And those athletic beers are awesome. They're really
Are they like healthy or like
they're only 45 calories, which is also great. And it's kind of nice. It's like you're having lunch and you're like, I think I'm gonna have a beer, and it doesn't take you out of commission, and it's refreshing. And these are hazy IPAs. They sell them at most places, and it's even turned me into like hop water. I like those hop waters are pretty good too. And you're like, wait, do I just like the taste of beer and don't care about the alcohol, which is kind of the thing. So
I totally co-sign, especially the lunch thing, because it's like, drink a lot of water and that's great, but like every once in a while you want to like feel like you're treating yourself, like it goes better with food, but also you can't ruin your day. So I love it for sure. I will say I haven't had a non-alcoholic lager that works.
Right.
It's all in that sort of like pretty hoppy sort of profile, but doesn't make you feel super bloated and groggy like the regular old IPA. So
accurate.
Love it. Kaplan, what you got?
Well, I just installed this new app a few seconds ago. It's called Shotter. Yeah. So I screen capture. Now what? Now I open the editor, and now I feel like
now you can do all these. No, now you can do all these things. I mean, you should. I think it has a little tutorial, but it's definitely worth it to really go pro with it.
Talk about an endorsement. I mean, I've been doing. This is like episode 460 of whatever with Matt. He's never endorsed something that I've actually like looked at immediately.
That's true. Because you're missing out, Oren.
This is awesome.
Yeah, it is really awesome.
Well, I have a stupid endorsement, It's just a realization. Are you guys familiar with Gigster?
Yes.
Giggster.
Locations, yes.
Find houses, whatever, cool, whatever things. Out of desperation, I typed a beach into Gigster. And so, of course, I found a lot of houses in Newport Beach and Manhattan Beach and a lot of beach houses. But the craziest thing is they have actual beaches like Zuma Beach. And if you click on it, it says $1 an hour. Kindly note that obtaining a permit is necessary for shooting at this location. The specific permit fees, coordination fees, requirements, and timelines can vary, whatever. Generally, notice period of 4 to 5 business days in advance is sufficient. Click here to request. Basically, you can apply for a permit to film at Zuma Beach from Gigster.
Yeah, Gigster. Wow.
And they have every beach. They have,
Well, because Gigster is great because they will automate a lot of the legwork of booking locations for you. Like they can provide insurance, they can paper it for you, they can get all, they can upcharge you on all of that stuff. So essentially Zuma Beach is free, but all of the work of getting...
Well, a Film LA permit is probably like a few $1,000s.
Right, that's what I'm saying. But Gigster will do that for you rather than you having to schlep down to Film LA or whatever.
Yeah, but look, Dockweiler Beach, Sickle Cove Beach, Will Rogers State Beach, they're all on here.
Awesome. It's just some guy that's like taking credit, for someone else's beaches,
Sure. Yeah.
No, but honestly, I've been trying to find a beach and I talk to the producer and the producer talks to the location scout and the location scout talks to the location manager and the location manager just switch because they got another job. And it's like, okay, is anybody actually trying to get us the permit or figuring out if this beach is available? And now I'm like, oh, I can just...
Well, you can see me at the crafty table when I'm on your commercial shoot because give me money. So I need money.
Wait, what can you do on my commercial shoot other than direct?
I actually take really great BTS. Like I'm not even joking. But also crafty. Yeah, crafty. I could do crafty for you. I could hold your iPad.
Where do you get name me 5 things you would bring to the crafty table?
Cracker Jacks. That is
okay. You are 5.
You don't like Cracker Jacks?
Crafty? No, I need healthy snacks.
Kyle, do you want to go grab your
wiener? What kind of dog do you have?
A bad one. I'll show you then shortly. Is that okay?
Okay, yeah.
Thank you guys so much.
If you have any questions for Kyle or us, you can always email us at justshootitpod@gmail.com or hit us up on social media at justshootitpod. We're across all social media, including TikTok. So check us out there. And you can follow me at Mr. Matt Enlow.
And I'm at O'Kaplan on Instagram. This episode was edited by Kevin O'Yang. Our producer is Tyler Small, and you're listening to music from the Free Music Archive and artist Jazar. We will catch you next time. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Goodbye. Bye.